Welcome to another episode of ECTV's Roundtable Discussions. I'm your host, Travis Prince, and today our guest is Holly Yorkonis. Artist H.W. Yorkonis, Scranton native, has been creating art and expressing her artistic voice through mixed media and abstract painting for over a decade. Most recently, she has created a women empowerment series that depicts women warriors fighting social injustice. You can find her work on social media as well as local venues such as First Friday Scranton. HW contributes a portion of her proceeds to nonprofit organizations that continually supports women's rights. How are you doing today, Holly?
I'm great, thank you for having me.
It's excellent to have you here. The first thing we want to do is let our guests know a little bit about you. So are you local to the area?
I was born and raised in Scranton, so I'm definitely a native from this little town. When I met my husband and we had moved in together, he's from like the Luzerne area, so we met in the middle, and I currently live in Avoca, Pennsylvania. Wow,
so Scrantonian through and through.
Through and through.
So what about a little bit about your education? What schools did you go to? High schools or colleges did you attend?
So I graduated from Scranton High School, and I graduated from the University of Scranton in a social science degree, and I'm currently halfway through my master's in education.
Wow.
I don't necessarily have art school.
That's what
which I thought you were going there. I was surprise.
So social sciences and education. So what gives you such an interest in art if you're majoring in education and social sciences? So
I love art. I love art so much. I love every form of it. For me, as a multidisciplinary artist and mixed media artist, visionary artist, I carry many titles. I enjoy dance and theater and I just love art, okay? So ever since I was a little kid, now I don't necessarily remember all of this story that I'm gonna tell you, but so like my mom telling me or family telling me, but when I was a young child, like elementary school throughout middle school, I had a lot of medical issues. I had a lot of medical needs, a lot of things to be taken care of. It turned out that I was born with a coarctation in my aorta, so in my heart. I didn't have my surgery until I was 12. And in between that time, from about 7, 8 through 12, and then like years of recovery, not years of recovery so much in the physical sense, but in like diet, exercise, mental, things like that. Not being able to do things that your friends are doing. So, that period of adolescence, everybody brought me art supplies, coloring books, things like that. And I remember doing connect the dots, and then I would color the picture. No one colored the picture, right? They would connect the dots up, I'm done. No, you're not, you gotta color it in. So I just remember things like that. And then throughout my teenage years and, young adulthood, I have a woman empowerment series. There was some domestic, issues in the home, broken family, things split up. And the thing that always stuck with me was my art. I never lost an art supply. To this day, I have a box. It's called the Archives. That's what I called it. And I have drawings and paintings from when I was about 12 years old.
Wow, that's amazing to be able to hold on to those memories like that.
And I just never let go.
Now, the thing too with art and you being in the educational field, where do you draw your inspirations from? Or have you had mentors to guide you in art to help you express your creativity?
So I draw inspiration from a lot of different places. I really enjoy travel. I love traveling. I love to go to big cities. I love to go to New York City, Philadelphia. We had plans to go to Chicago this summer, pending. And I like to go to museums. Every state or city that I'm in, I like to find the museum. Whether if they don't have an art museum, I'll go to like a history museum. And that's like a lot of times where I draw my inspiration from.
That's pretty good. And I'm the same way in that aspect where if I travel, I want to see what type of art is popular in the area, if there's any popular local artists in the area. Like you say, there are galleries and museums are just always interesting. And like you said, it does drive your creativity, your inspiration and motivation just to see the works that other artists produce. So what actually keeps you motivated as an artist to continually produce works of art?
I paint with my feelings. I feel in myself as an artist, I have to paint. I have to. I don't have a choice to get these like visions out of my system. And I know that might sound crazy, like, oh, what does this lady mean? But I think of things, or I see things, or I'm inspired by something, and I'll think of this creation, and then boom, I make it happen, okay? And then throughout that, people tend to like it, and people tend to purchase it. So with that, you grow an audience, and you get someone that buys something, and that person might buy another one, and before you know it, you have somebody collecting. And I mean, that is a motivator, but my true, I really truly just, I paint with my heart. I paint with my feelings. I in the mixed media, like I have paint all over. You feel it. You texture. You know what I mean. I get in the paint like that orange. I did that all literally with my hand,
Wow.
like not just a brush. I was like, I'm gonna like rub that in. I'm gonna get that in there. I'm gonna mix that color this way, and I have more control using this as opposed to using this.
Wow. And I get that. Having a true passion is, and it's difficult to explain that to other people, where you feel like this uncontrollable urge or desire to create. And I'm right there with you. And it makes artists like us hard to be in a relationship with sometimes, and it gives us a different perspective on the world, because things affect us so deeply on an emotional
Yes.
level. And like you say, when it gets to that point, you just have to create. You have to get it out of your system. So I'm totally there with you on that. So who are some of your biggest inspirations when it comes to art? Who do you like to examine their artwork, or who do you compare yourself to?
I don't necessarily compare myself to anybody. I'm not the next somebody. I'm the first HW.
Wow.
Okay, so I know, and that might, I don't know how that sounds, but I just want it to sound the way it sounds. My main man is Picasso. I am enthralled by his work from the beginning to the end. Okay, like I have so many books. The first gift my husband, at the time when we first started dating, he bought me a big Picasso book, and I was like, "Oh, you're a keeper. We're married now," right? So, and side story. Speaking of being in a relationship, with our first home, we shared space for me painting, and he was like, "Nope, we got a new home." He's like, "You have your own room." So that's side story. You have your own space. So. But Picasso, I'm so in love with his work, his painting, his sculpture, the way that he was as a person. And I know sometimes with my Woman Warriors collection, you know, I might get feedback like, oh, he was like, you know, not good to, and you know, that's a different story. So, but the way that he painted, and the way that sometimes he cut himself off from society, and sometimes he was like, you know, I'm not going to sell this to you because I don't feel like you're the type of character that should have my work, right? And the shapes, the organic, natural to him shapes and colors, the fact that he liked artificial light better than sunlight, I'm a big fan. I'll be closing the blinds. And, you know, I have lamps set up. I like to create my own shade, to create my own, this is where I want my light to come from. And if it's coming from two different directions and some technical person wants to tell me I'm wrong, I'm going to say, no, I'm not. I remember the first time I saw a Picasso, a real one. I was 20 years old. I was in Boston, Massachusetts at the big museum, and it was, okay, I was there on a student government trip, and we had free time, and I go to the museum, and they had Rape of the Sabine Woman. Now that's a whole series that went through the 60s, but there was one specific one there, and it was bigger than the building. It was huge. It wasn't even on the wall, it was on a platform. Wow. I don't know how they did it. And I was with my girlfriend at the time we went. She still makes fun of me to this day. And I'm staring at it. And I'm staring at it. I'm looking every texture, every line, and I've seen it in pictures. It's not the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was a defining moment in my life, and I'm just like in love. I start crying, crying. Security comes up to me. Ma'am, are you okay? I'm fine. My friend comes, let's go. I said, I'm not leaving yet. And I stood there for a little bit longer, and I just like took that in. That's 15 years ago. And it was such an amazing experience. And I had studied his work prior to that, and I continue to study it to this day.
That's an awesome story.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that is the purpose of art, to induce that deep emotional reaction to it, whatever emotions you feel, whether it be a sense of empathy, a sense of love, a sense of joy or anger or disgust, and art has the ability to bring those out of us in an instant and overwhelm us to the point where we physically cry over it.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. That's
Yeah.
a positive thing. Once again, art is supposed to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfort, you know? So, and I can absolutely agree with you, like Picasso was just one of those people, an amazing person and amazing artist in general. Like, and I've watched a few documentaries on Picasso, and he just had this swag about him where someone told a story that he even paid for a really fancy meal by doodling on a napkin and said, there's your payment for my dinner tonight. So I wish I could just reach that level of fame. But I can definitely see that you draw some inspiration from his techniques and apply it to your own stuff. Would you care to talk about the art that you've brought for us today?
So these two pieces in particular, they're fairly new. This was done in March of 2020, and that was done in April of 2020. And I never intended on them being a set, but they're definitely a set. So currently in the United States and the world, we're going through a health pandemic. And with that, we're in Pennsylvania, and we were on lockdown, and we're phasing into reopening. During that lockdown, I had a very difficult time, along with a lot of people. Millions of people had a difficult time with it. And as much as they said we're in this together, I still felt alone. Yeah. And my husband was on the front lines working in the hospital, and he was calm as a cucumber, but it was difficult for me knowing he's out there in the midst of all this. At first I couldn't paint. At first I was, the first couple of days I was like, woo, woo, right? I was like, yoga, paint. No, that did not happen. It was like snacks and crying. So when I finally was able to try to create, I actually painted another piece. It's a black canvas, and there's a mixed media person sitting in it and just like colors running down. And again, maybe I'm a crier. I was crying because it all hits you at once. It's the whole world. It's not just you. So when I was able to, I said, let me get out the big canvas. Let me just put it on there. And I took it outside, and I got this spray paint acrylic, magazine cutouts, brushwork, handwork, palette knife up the top. Like, let me get my tools out. Let me get my tool belt out. Let me do this. I go outside, spray painting covers it faster. And I'm not an instant gratification person, but I do work with acrylics and spray paint, and get that base layer down so you could just build upon that. So this, I say every painting is me. Right? So this is, I hate to say that it's like the virus. It's really not. It's everything. This is me or anybody just being held down. You're held down. There's nothing you can't do anything. You're forced in your own home. And I understand it was safe. I'm not against it. I'm just talking about my experience through it. This is supposed to be like a garden. Like, it's there, but it's so messed up right now. You can't go to the park. You can't. You were allowed to go for walks and things like that, but you couldn't go to a public park. You couldn't go hiking for a long time, things like that. All these cutouts are pictures of city blocks. So there's the park bench, there's fencing, floral, there's buildings, like electric wires, like I'm a city. I'm definitely not like a country person. I'm a city. I like big cities, and I just felt like I couldn't go. And this was right around the time we had a trip planned, like to New York City for the day or the weekend, your friends out there, you know, we're hanging, I can't go. Why can't I go? You know what I mean? So I painted it.
So my question is, did you go into this piece with a defined vision for the finished
No.
product, or it was just an emotion?
It was an emotion.
And you went through it, and as the piece is progressing and coming together, you can kind of see where the emotions are building up more and what you're focusing on more in the piece.
Right. Like, so the first layer is gray, right? So it's just gray. It's dark.
Just the heaviness that you're feeling.
Just that heavy gray, cover the canvas, just cover it up. And then I subscribe to a lot of magazines. They try to get me to go digital. I'm like, no, I need that paper. So I'm flipping through my magazines. I do exercises to unblock, like artist block. I do exercises like I'll spill color on a canvas, or I flip through magazines and I'll just rip like what I feel ripping out. You know, resin pours. It's just a way to get it out of your system. And in this case, I was cutting out all the city pictures, and I made a vision board during this time too, and I was cutting out pictures of beaches. I was like, this is what I want to do. So we're just work on that mental. So I started that, and then the red, and then I'm like, well, there's got to be an end to it. There's got to be some light. There's got to be some green. There's got to be some nature. And then I put it on, and I was like, do I want to do a figure? And I'm like, I do. So I was like laying on the floor. I was like, let me get these arms right. But I put myself in a position. I'm not going to like look it up and say, oh, let me draw this line. No, I was like, all right, the arms go here, right? Because that's me. The red line, I feel like that was a bold move. I'm like, it was like, if I do it, it's on there. I could redo it. I could paint over it. I could, you know what I mean? And when I hit it, I was like, oh yeah.
Just felt right.
Then I hit it again. Yep. And then that was it.
I really like the layers to it. It is really deep. The layering process in itself draws you into this piece, and the form is so abstract that line catches you first, and then you feel the weight, and then you say, oh wow, it is pulling down on this figure here. But like you say, the lightness and the green, it pulls you right back, and the deep textures. It's such an amazing piece. It's so deeply layered, so richly textured, and the contrast of the colors, I can feel it. I really do feel it. I like this.
Thank you, Travis.
And so what's the piece beside it?
Okay, so that was done in April of 2020. A little bit after this one, and I started finding ways to feel better about being home. I started going live on Facebook. I started doing art shows. I did a month-long tour my home and look at all the art in my home, and we're going to talk about it. And it was amazing. It was so fun, and that was on Wednesdays, and every Wednesday was like the best day ever, you know? So I started to feel better. I started to like come out of my funk a little bit. You know, you see the good in the world. I always look for the helpers. I joined a group called NEPA Strong, and it's still going strong, and they donate back, and they have auctions, and it was around Easter time, and you can't be with your family. I Zoomed with my family that day, you know, and we had an auction. I donated some art. The auction, tons of people donated. The auction raised enough money, and it fed like 300 families for Easter. So I didn't do it. Kristen Miller-Hahn does that, and I'm gonna throw her name out there because she's just incredible at it. She's still growing strong. She is like, you know, helping keep these businesses open, helping artists, helping anybody, any home project, any crafters, you know, things like that. So I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to find the good in the world, but I miss my family and I miss my friends. And this piece is called Contact. So I have a huge bay window in my living room. And, you know, you can see, like, the mountains, the trees, the sunset. I mean, it's not Main Street, but I'm just saying look past that, right? And I'm, like, yearning, like, for some company. Like, you know, like, I was like, I want to see my friends. Like, our Friday happy hour messenger just, like, wasn't, I'd have a cup of tea, you know? Like, it was nice, but
it's not enough.
It's not the same. It's not enough. It doesn't fill that void, you know? So I built a city out of people. And I found this ad in Vogue magazine, and it was like the people of Vogue. And it had like these little pictures, right, of all these different people. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. I rip it out. And then I cut it up, and I was like, I have like 4 or 5 of these. Let me see if the ad's in there, because they do that. So I found 4 or 5 of it was the same ad, and I ripped them all up and got my little cutter out. And then I knew I wanted it to be a window, and I start the process. It's crazy. So it's a little bit brighter because I'm feeling a little bit better. I wanted to work a little bit more on figures. So I said, okay. And I'm just going to town. First, the spray paint. Oh, I need a blue spray paint. I didn't have any. I couldn't get any. Right?
COVID.
So, oh, I almost forgot. Like, and I'm searching for it, and Michael's has curbside pickup, but they're only open like 3 hours on one day, right? And then to get spray paint at an art store, it's like $8.
Yeah.
Stop it. Go online, it's like 3 or 4. So I find it on Amazon. Now I got to pick the blue out from a picture. I was like, all right, so I pick it out. By the time I got to spray paint, I was like almost done, but I did get it. So I have blue spray paint. And I paint the window now to people, and I want her reaching out. I want her looking out and just like wanting to like go out, go to First Friday. You know how many art shows were canceled?
Oh my God.
How many venues? I had started a brand new line in March of like clothes for we can get to that later. So many shows gone.
So sad.
Rescheduled, they'll call, you know what I'm saying?
So sad.
I was booked for the whole year. Oh man, okay. So I'm painting. I love umbers and golds. So I was like, I don't want the window to be too woody, but I was like, I kind of wanted to really represent a window. When I built the people, I placed them all on the floor first. And because there was multiple pictures of the same person, I had to make sure none of those people were by each other, right? Because that's just me. So I build it up, and then on the top of every building is a woman. I did that. That's on purpose.
What's the significance behind that?
So because I'm big into women empowerment, and I support women causes and women moving forward and breaking the glass ceiling and all that, like I'm all about it. So that's the significance. So I held true to myself. I always hold true to myself, no matter what. But I did that, and when I was building it on the floor, I was like, oh, I got to put the girl up here, on the top. Oh, I got to switch them. She goes on top. So then, 2020 is a dumpster fire. So sometimes I'm like, is that like a fire? Like, is everything on fire? Like, is everything like crumbling to the ground? Or is that the light, and the sunshine and the warmth of what's gonna be because we're safe at home?
This is another very, very interesting piece, and that's what I saw. I saw the flame and the fire in here, and wanted you to break that down because the coolness of the blue has this water effect to me, and we're in this moment in society where there is a conflict on so many sides, just like fire and water, but trying to find this happy medium and stay connected with our loved ones. Your work is just, it speaks on a lot of different levels, and I think that's what really attracts me to your stuff, because it can tell more than one story at a time, and just your process of building your art, like you're so free and you take so many different risks in putting these elements together. And the texture, I've been trying to add more and more texture to my pieces lately, but I love how you do your texture. And like I say, it looks so free and so organic, and the composition comes together very, very well at the end.
Thank you so much.
And the layers of cutouts, the woman empowerment, having the female at the apex of the structures. I really enjoyed this, Holly.
Thank you so much.
It's really good stuff. You have some other pieces that we can look at?
I do.
All right, we have 2 more pieces here. Let's start with the one closest to you. What's the title of this piece?
Woman warrior breaking through the glass ceiling.
Woman warrior breaking through the glass ceiling. That's a mouthful.
It is. And then it is. But so I have a whole woman warriors collection. So we could say glass ceiling, we could say resist, we could say, you know what I mean? And then
the main title, then a subtitle.
Right, because they're a part of something larger.
So let's go into the imagery on this one a little bit. The first thing I noticed, once again, is your eclectic use of different mediums and materials. Now this right here is so dramatic with the glass shards and this little handcuff. You wanna break down some of this for us?
Okay. So this is where mixed media HW comes in. All right. So as a whole, women make less money than men, right? Women are, held down by the patriarch, and we have to work a little bit harder. And, it's okay because we're a little bit stronger. But at the same time, it's like, it's not okay. I think we need to all be equal pay, equal rights, equal everything. Like, I'm not saying that like some, the feedback will be, oh, well, a woman can't do this type of job. Well, maybe I can't. I might not be able to do that big manly job. You're right. But you're doing it and you're getting paid for it. But if there is a woman out there that can do that, then she should get paid the same.
Exactly.
Like I like the examples, like, like firefighters. There's women firefighters, and it's like they're getting paid less. Is their life less valuable? So that's kind of like, and I'm just an example. Firefighters are great people. Like, I'm just as an example. And we need to break the glass ceiling. So the glass ceiling is a term that was created in the 60s, 70s, that women couldn't get upper management positions in companies based on the fact that they were a woman. And that was literally the only fact, based on research, based on everything. A man would always get the job over her, even if she was more qualified than him. So we create this. So I have the glass here. It's so literal and so abstract at the same time. And I think it needs to be. I feel like the handcuffs are like we're just supposed to sit there with our hands crossed and our ankles crossed and just sit there and seen and not heard. So no. Well, she holds the key to her own destination. I have the citizen gloves on. We're all citizen. It's just a brand, But it means more than that. Like, I'm a citizen, you're a citizen. We both have a job. We both get paid the same. You know what I mean? Like, things like that. When she breaks the ceiling, here's, I have a lot of bloodshed in these things. Because I feel like there is a lot of bloodshed in it. I feel like, blood, sweat, and tears, you just have to hustle and hustle and hustle. So, people give their lives, like their whole lives, protesting and just speaking their truths and trying to make change, and die doing it without seeing it. But they paved the way for me, for us, and that's what this is. So
the woman warrior. The one more thing, we have 3 stars above her.
Oh, they're achievements. Like Xbox. I'm just kidding. So, so that's the achievement. So when you get, you get your, when you're a little kid, you get your star sticker. When you win the race, you get a medal. When you are very successful in your job, you might get a plaque. Like, there's always like that tangible, something, appreciation that someone gives you.
I love it. I love the fusion of the lighter background. There's definitely layers to that. I want to get closer and see.
You want to see it?
I'll do it after, but I can see that there is something back there that is covered. it may not be important to her. It may be something that she's leaving behind, a situation that
She's
is
like bursting
away through there. And once again, the textures you put up here is amazing. Not trying to put a bunch of brush strokes and highlights to make the blood drips look real, but to actually lay it on there thick so that the paint captures the light itself is just another great aspect of this piece. And the figure herself, the eclecticness of it, and how you arrange the key, the feeling of bondage, but at the same time we can visually see these handcuffs are no longer locked and restraining her. It's a very, very pivotal piece. I like that. Let's talk about its counterpart here.
So that's another woman warrior. She is the woman who had been through some terrible things. Rape culture is a real thing in our society, and people get away with abusing women. Some people don't get away with it, and the women that are victims of it and then become or experience growth into becoming a survivor of it. So she's a survivor, and not only is she a survivor, she's an activist, and she geared up and says, I will protect you. I will speak for you. I am the voice of the voiceless. You'll no longer be hurt anymore. Like, I'm here for you, and I understand why you feel this way and how you might not be able to get out, but I'm going to help you get out. And it's just, I feel like she's one of the most powerful ones. The mixed media pieces on it are all vintage. I'm really into vintage. I'm not trying to steer the conversation, but I find myself getting like, emotional and warm, and I know this is a family-friendly show, so she's ready to fight for you. And on my lives, when we went through the women empowerment and our activist series after the tour that I had spoke about earlier, she's there to protect you. Oh, it's not just women. It's men. There's a small population of men that experience that too. And like underage boys, and they go through pain of domestic violence and sexual violence. And, it's not just women, it's a whole, like, domestic violence, rape culture, sexual violence, like, and I am anti that, and that's what she's for.
So you've created this hero type figure to, like you say, basically to let other victims know you're not alone. And that's one of the main things that all of us as humans want to feel, that we are understood. And there's some things and some experiences that we go through that you can't understand if you have not been through it yourself.
Right.
And there's no way to really verbally express that, but for someone else who has been through there, just to say, I understand, I'm here, and I'm going to protect you, and we will resist this thing, is something that we all need. We all need those type of heroes in our lives, and they can be normal people, regular everyday people that have just been through the same situations that we have, who have triumphed and overcome themselves and want to help other people out of these dark places. Your art is fantastic. It speaks volumes. It's beautiful, and it's very moving.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming here today and showing your art.
And to just add to that, anything from the Woman Warriors collection sold, 10% of that goes directly to Women's Resource Center. In addition to that, both of these pieces and 2 other pieces have been made into racerback tank tops, so they're very affordable, and 10% of that goes to Women's Resource Center. And during the lockdown, domestic violence had raised 30 to 50% throughout the world. Wow. And I and my clients' friends, we raised 150 in 4 weeks and donated it.
That's very admirable.
So that was really cool. And
yes.
It was like, that was the most in one chunk of time. You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And so I thought, yeah, I'm creating these so I can speak. It's easier for me to talk about art than it is to talk about this violence. But I could sit here and talk about my art all day. So when I went into the apparel, the women empowerment apparel, I said, why are you doing this? Like, yeah, it's really cool. And I'm like, so people could talk about it. So you're going to wear this shirt and say, oh, that's cool. What is that about? And they're going to be able to talk about it. And then I said, let's take this a step further and let's donate the money.
Well, that's so admirable of you to actually put your money where your mouth is and to help give back and to help support these causes and these organizations that are trying to make changes for the better in people's lives.
Thank you.
That's very awesome.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of ECTV's Roundtable Discussions. I'm your host, Travis Prince, and today our guest was H.W. Yorkonis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.